everyone, it's Kayla from the Math Center, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about how to find the graph f of x when you're given the graph f prime of x. So these two definitions will help us figure out what we can know about or how to draw f of x from our graph prime of x. Because what we know about f prime of x is that it will always, this graph gives us the value of the slope at any point x. And so this is the derivative. So this is what we know about f prime of x, because f of x gives you the value of f at any point x. So we're going to look at an example of a f prime of x graph. So here's this one. And you'll notice, first of all, that it's not continuous everywhere on this graph. It has 3 jump discontinuities, and it's also not defined for its ends at its endpoints. These orange weird looking dots are supposed to be empty circles. So yeah, your function is not defined for these orange looking dots / circles, open circles. But anyways, so it's not defined for either of these endpoints, so not at -6, -3, 0, +2, or 8. So yeah, not defined for any of those points. But we can still know the value of our slope in any of those intervals. So we know the value of our slope here, 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 and here. So, and we'll use all 4 of these intervals to construct an image of what f of x can look like. So let's examine the first interval of our f prime of x graph. From -6 to -3, you know that the value of your slope from here to here is positive because we're above the x-axis, right? So we know that it's positive, and we also know that it increases in value. You know, you start from 0 here, and then you start increasing in value up until you reach 8, almost 8. And so you start from almost 0 and you increase in value until almost 8. So you know that that portion of your graph. So this is what we know about f prime of x. So if we work backwards, we know that f of x looks somewhat like this. So it looks something like this, right? So here our slope is 0. And then as you start going, your slope increases, and it increases, and it increases, and eventually we're going to increase until your slope is 8. Right? So this section of this interval of the graph looks like that. So this is the version of f of x from -6 to -3. Now, let's look at that second interval. So then from -3 to 0, so f of x from -3 to 0, we know that our slope has a constant value of 3. So from here to here, our slope will always be 3. So it'll look like some straight line like that, right? So you go I need to be a little bit steeper than that. So like for every, I go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. So that's what my slope looks like. And it's a constant slope, so it won't change. It's going to be 3 for that whole interval. And so that's what our graph f of x looks like from -3 to 0. And then we're going to look at the third segment of our graph. So from 0 to 2, so at f of x from 0 to 2, we know that it has a constant value as well. But this time it's negative. So this is going to be, we'll say this is -1. My bad. Should have labeled that. But yeah, we'll say it's -1, right? So you go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, for that whole distance, 0 to 2, right? So this is what our f of x looks like in that interval. And now we're going to look at a fourth interval, which is from 2 to 8. And here, you will notice that our graph starts with a negative value. The slope of the value of our slope at this point is negative. So you're going to be, and in this particular case, we're going to start at a value of -4, and then we start to increase, right? We're increasing, and then we get here, and the value of our slope is now 0. And then so this whole time we're all negative. The value of our slope is negative. But then here, once you hit the x-axis, the value of your slope is 0 for a moment, and then you have a positive slope. So now, from here, your slope, as you start to increase again, but you're now positive until you get to here, and then the value or slope would be 3. So you start at your slope is -4, and then you start to decrease. You're decreasing, and then you reach 0. And then at 0, you become a positive slope, but now as you travel along to x equals 8, you start to increase. And so now you're just moving along. And so the graph will look something like this. You have you have a negative slope of 4, right? So you're negative, and then so your negative slope of 4, and then you start to decrease. You're still negative, but you're no longer, you start to decrease in size. So you go from -4 to -3, -2, -1, until you reach 0. And so now here, your slope is 0, and now you're going to turn into a positive slope. And so you're going to start really, really small, and then you're going to start increasing. So you go like your slope is 1, then your slope is 2, and your slope is 3. So this is what your graph f of x looks like from 2 to 8. And so now these are all the things you can know about your graph f of x from f prime of x. And so now we're just going to construct the full version of this graph. So we're just going to draw our intervals. So -6, -3, 0, 2, and 7, right? So here we know from -6 to -3, our graph looks something like that, right? Ooh. I can draw a better graph there. Okay, so then it looks something like that. And then from -3 to 0, we look something like, so we go 1, 2, 3 over 1, 1, 2, 3-ish over 1, 1, 2, 3-ish over 1. There you go. So now, there you go. And so we look somewhat like that. And then from 0 to 2, we have a -1 slope. So we go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So we look like that. And then from 2 to 7, we know our graph looks somewhat like this. So we'll just draw it like, 2 to 8. My bad, not 7. 2 to 8. Our graph looks something like that. And so that's kind of what the graph looks like. And so some of you may ask, like, why do we know it starts there and then it goes to here? Or, like, why aren't they connected and why are these connected? And so the thing about f prime of x, what we know about f prime of x, is that we only know the value of the slope. We don't know about the value of f at any x. And so that's the thing. And so we're trying to draw f, or sketch out f of x from what we know about f prime of x. So any of these 4 parts of the graph can be connected or not connected. It just depends on how you want to draw it. But yeah, we can't know when these are going to start or stop because we're not giving that information. We can only know what the value of our slope is at any x. So yeah, as long as you have these 4 main parts of the graph, as long as each one of these parts of the graph looks somewhat like this, you should be fine. And so that's all we can know about f prime of x. So yeah, I hope this helps you guys with trying to draw f of x from f prime of x, and we'll see you at the Math Center.